Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org, and there's a lot of incredible news happening right now, including law enforcement officers like this making a stand, demanding that people do the right thing and not follow illegal, senseless, backwards orders. And we definitely need a lot more of that with the current situation in the United States definitely getting out of hand. But there is some pushback that has been absolutely incredible that we're going to be talking about in this video, as well as getting into a new bombshell revelation by the U.S. military that should concern everyone. And before we do that, plus a lot more, we have to remind you that you have to go to wearechange.org/donate and sign up on our email list. This is important more than ever, as of course many channels and videos on this platform are getting deleted left and right without explanation. And the only way for us to exist is for you guys to sign up on our email list, which we could conveniently stay in touch with you regardless of what happens next. Now, if you remember in yesterday's video, we talked about a salon owner in Texas that was going above and beyond when it came to proper PPE, safety, and health procedures, that was arrested, and she was sentenced to jail by a judge that decided that she should spend 7 days in prison because she wouldn't, quote, apologize. This move by the judge has been characterized by some as a power-tripping move made by a bozo. And I would agree with some of those characterizations of what happened. And with this judge not getting his apology, he harshly sentenced the salon owner, Shelley Luther. Ever since then, the story went viral. So it's, of course, it's very hypocritical to punish her, throw her in jail. Meanwhile, companies like Amazon are still allowed to keep their businesses open, to send out non-essential items, to put workers in hazardous conditions, according to them. And if workers speak out, they get fired immediately. Amazon as a company is allowed to continue their business practices along with Walmart and other multinational corporations, but this woman isn't, especially when she was following all the safety procedures. It's a ridiculous story that resonated with many frustrated Americans. There was a GoFundMe started for Shelley Luther that has already, by the making of this video, made close to $500,000. Sarah Palin, the former governor of Alaska, decided to visit the jail. The Texas lieutenant governor decided to pay her fine. There was a protest outside of the judge's Eric Moyes' house, a judge who is being described as a Democratic activist. And in one of the biggest stunning revelations surrounding this is, of course, the Supreme Court of Texas recently ruling that Shelley Luther should be released. Incredible news, which is celebrated by many individuals and is inspiring other law enforcement from overstepping their balance, which they have been, and encouraging them not to violate people's rights. And they've been doing more than just violating people's rights, as you've seen from yesterday's video and our coverage beforehand. There's been other egregious incidences happening all throughout the country, like a SWAT team shutting down a bar, helicopters, drones, patrolling, spying, and attacking individuals who are alone in nature, not bothering anyone. There's been Big Brother surveillance tech rolled out, all enforced by politicians, many of whom don't even follow the, quote, new normal rules that they themselves, quote, put in. And I think there's definitely some interesting comparisons to see how the United States has handled this crisis compared to, of course, the government of Japan. But overall, seeing officers like this officer and many others make a stand and speak out against the insanity that's been happening, well, overall, this is a good sign and is very encouraging, in my own opinion. A lot of this insanity actually was totally ignored in places like Tokyo, Japan, a place that has a population of close to 40 million people, 37,393,000 and 129,000 to be exact, which hasn't had to implement any of these insane draconian measures. They actually did the opposite of that, the opposite of what some crazy plutocrats did in China. that some politicians aspired to in the United States, and they actually implemented no laws, no rules, just suggestions. Yes, the government of Japan just asked its citizens to take this threat seriously. Some people have decided to do so, some have not. The Japanese economy hasn't been devastated like the one in the United States, and of course they haven't been as devastated by this sickness like other parts of the United States. Now, it's important to note here, when you compare the death rate of Tokyo, an estimated 141 people have died from that. When you look at New York, which this meme actually incorrectly points to a population of 8 million, that's the population in New York City. The population of New York State is 20 million, and when you look at 20 million in New York State, you have a death rate of 19,415. Some people do say that this number is exaggerated because of initiatives of hospitals to get funding, and because of other accusations that this number isn't as high as it officially is. Without jumping into that debate or taking a particular stance, even without that factor, when you compare the approach, the response, the impact on human life and the economy, Japan is still head over heels doing a way better job than, of course, the United States. I visited Tokyo many times. I was surprised about how many individuals there wear masks. At first, I thought people were just sick everywhere, but then I found out people wear masks not because they're sick, but because of the courtesy that they want to extend to other people so other people don't get sick. It's a courtesy by a lot of individuals there that go out of their way to stop the spread of sickness and disease. And when you look at the effects that this has had, even before this sickness, when you look at other sicknesses, it's astounding to see the effects that masks, contributed with other factors, have had that benefited the Japanese people. Also, in many public places, including restaurants, I still remember being perplexed walking into a restaurant being asked to take my shoes. They take off their shoes everywhere. And according to some professionals, this sickness that we're dealing with right now is spread if someone sneezes or coughs. Particles are put on the floor. Shoes sometimes pick up those particles and are spread inside of homes, because in America, I don't know why, but after traveling to Tokyo, this was the common sense thing to do. I started doing it in my house, and I think it's the smart thing to do. I know some people are going to be like, freedom, but America and inconvenience. Well, after you take a dookie, is it inconvenient to wipe your... Do you also see... Sorry for making that analogy, but do you also see it that same way? And again, look at Japan. No draconian measures. No arrests. No police state. No major economic devastation. No major shutdown of businesses. When I was in Hong Kong covering the protests there were similar epithets there, just like I just talked about in Japan, which, again, as a Westerner or foreigner, were strange to get accustomed to. But again, learning why these things happen, like the basic practice of wearing masks, it's something that should be incentivized, especially after seeing the Hong Kong protesters wear masks, not only to promote proper cleanliness, but to also, of course, hide their identities from the Chinese government that was tracking them down and imprisoning them. So yeah, after looking at that and other scientific data and studies, comparing the data of countries that wear masks to the countries that didn't, this to me is a common sense solution that should be incentivized, talked about, and spread. No, government should not make it mandatory, but this is something that needs to be discussed and debated with actual arguments. I'm here, and again, I reached out to people and I said, let's talk about this. Let's converse about this. The only argument is that I'm seeing is America. Well, again, that's not really an argument, or convenience. And when you look at the convenience versus the bigger implications here, especially with what just the U.S. military officially announced, with this uncertain situation that we still don't know the full ramifications of, the full effects of, better to take this more seriously, better to be safer than sorry. And again, this latest announcement by the military in the United States announcing that survivors, people who have allegedly had this sickness and fully recovered, that they will be banned from joining the military. This was after a public memo was released setting these new guidelines, and this should raise red flags for everyone asking, like, What does the US military know that we don't know? What are the longer term effects of this sickness that we still don't know about? Many doctors that I've been listening to and have been talking about this sickness reoccurring, never fully going away, having permanent organ damage on individuals that didn't have any other major medical problems beforehand. They're talking about this sickness resurfacing, going back down, showing back up in a cycle that hasn't been ending in a lot of people. But you have to factor that in also with the fact that the military is announcing that it's also including people that are asymptomatic. People who are not showing any symptoms of it still cannot join the U.S. military. This, with also the news of a lot of information suggesting that this came out of a lab, that it has similar composition like HIV, this should be something that, of course, should be concerning to a lot of people. This is why from the very beginning I've been saying that you should be taking this entire situation seriously, taking preventative measures not to get it, being respectful of others and their space, taking the proper PPE and safety procedures when around other individuals, especially the elderly and immune compromised, saying that you should at least have courtesy to other individuals when we're in this time, because again, we still don't know the far-ranging implications here. Ever since I saw the Chinese government treat this as seriously as they did, there's other reports coming in that they quarantined their troops all the way back in November, and some information that the intelligence agencies knew this was coming in November. But seeing the Chinese government's response to this, seeing the mainstream media underplay this from the very beginning, raised a lot of alarm bells. We're still in a very uncertain situation. Personally, living and having family in New York City, I really wish we could try to adopt some of the policies that the people of Tokyo have adopted, have implemented themselves, without any government, without any force, without any coercion, because that approach seems a lot more conducive than what we have right now. We have to stop with the emotions, we have to look at logic, we have to look at the data, we have to look at the information, and most importantly, we have to question everything. Here on an independent media organization, we're not afraid to tell you that we don't know something for a certainty. It's outrageous for me to see individuals who claim that they're open-minded to claim that they also know every little thing that's happening right now to the T, because no one does. And it's absolute bullcrap. And if you see an individual out there saying, I know exactly what's happening, this is what's happening exactly, they're utter fools and idiots. Down the line, almost everyone has been proven wrong here. The situation keeps flipping 180 degrees in a matter of seconds, and yet some bozo the clown that calls himself an independent journalist or a mainstream journalist or a politician is going to come to you and say that they know exactly what's going on? Get the out of my face. Sorry, but not sorry. That's how I see it. If you think I'm wrong, let's engage in a conversation down below. I don't censor comments, unlike a lot of other individuals. I'm all for having the debate, having the conversation, because if I can't learn from you and other people, well, I'm just an ignorant, asinine fool, and I definitely don't want to be that. There's a power at looking at information and changing your mind, and it's okay to do so. If you agree, share this video with your friends and family members. It's more important than ever, and because you guys do, love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.